by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. Operation Breadbasket was nationally known through the efforts of Reverend Jesse Jackson. And the most prominent chapter of Operation Breadbasket was in Chicago. Operation Breadbasket was the economic development branch of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. They were charged with ensuring equal rights. And the way they did that was through what you call a selective buying campaign. Some people call them boycotts. And you may be familiar with that from the Montgomery bus boycott, but there were boycotts everywhere. Smart people in the community knew that with institutionalized racism running rampant, there was no plea that you could make to somebody in government that was going to sympathize with you. So what you had to do was you had to hit them where it hurt. For instance, here in Houston, Texas, the Burger King Corporation was offering a franchise. And the franchise had been, lots of people not of color had applied for the franchise. And the Burger King Corporation was leaning toward it. Well, we had a city councilman who was a realtor and a councilman for many years, and he was Judson Robinson Sr. And Judson Robinson Sr. had put together an investment group that wanted this Burger King franchise. Well, Burger King had told them that they didn't franchise to African Americans. At that time, they wouldn't have used that term. They would have had a better term that nobody would say anything about. So they came to Operation Breadbasket to Pluria Marshall. And Mr. Marshall and his team got together and said, well, they building this thing right in the middle of a black neighborhood. I don't see why a black person can't have the franchise if they got the money to franchise. And they said, well, we're not going to franchise to them, and that's that. So what we did was we closed down the Burger King, y'all. The Burger King opened up. They had the grand opening. Mr. Marshall and his team and people in the community, our best friend was a placard board. These boards like kids do school projects on and stuff. So we write on the sign, you wouldn't want to say something nasty to us because we would actually quote you on the picket sign. And we would say who said it and why they said it. So we told them, okay, if a black person can't cook the burger and sell the burger, won't be no burgers around here. And this was located on the corner of Alameda and Wheeler, and that spot is still there, but now it's a parking lot. So what we did was we stood out in front of there and we shared with black people that were trying to come in there, hey, these people say that you can't own no Burger King, you can't cook no burgers, you can't do nothing but buy a burger from the king. That's how we put it. And they said no. So after about 2 weeks, we shut them down. If you can imagine, a Burger King or a McDonald's makes big bucks, big, huge bucks. We did not allow them to make any money for 2 weeks. Needless to say, the franchise was led to Mr. Robinson and his group. So here's the thing about Breadbasket that it teaches you, that money in a society that's that's what they call it in an enterprising society, money is everything. If something goes wrong, follow the money. If something goes right, follow the money. If you want something to happen, follow the money. So that's the way it goes. So we learned that we could control what they did. We wasn't unfair. We was asking for um, um, we was asking for nothing less than anyone else would have. If I got money, I should be able to invest in what I want to. So we shut them down. Uh, Another company in Houston that was defiant and didn't want to hire black managers was Foley's. And Foley's is now Macy's. It was taken over by Macy's. But Foley's was the department store to shop at in Houston. For the common people, it was the department store to shop at. And they said that, well, we don't want nobody buying. We can buy our own stuff. So we offered them the same thing. We said either you hire from within floor managers, department managers, and one big thing that black people never think about in a department store, and that's the person that makes the money, is the buyer, the person that goes out and buys the clothes. They get all kinds of incentives from the people selling the clothes. They get all kinds of incentives from the company that got them buying the clothes, and they make money. So we asked them to hire buyers because we were buying clothes and merchandise in there. We asked them to hire floor managers, to hire an assistant manager, and this one was unique because the vice president of Foley's at that time was a black man. And he was trying to tell us, hey, we made enough advancements. We got people supervising departments, and I don't know what you guys' problem is. And we said, the problem is just the way we spelled it out. We want to sit at the table and share in the management of Foley's because we share in the purchase of your merchandise. And so we worked on them about 3 or 4 weeks. There was a place called Shoppers Fair, and it was located on Scott and Old Spanish Trail. And it is still there, but it's there as the Texas Department of Human Resources. It's that same building. Shoppers Fair was a company out of Dixie. Y'all know Dixie, way down south in Dixie. And it was actually the precursor to a Walmart. This store was like a Walmart. There was everything in this store. Groceries, hardware, everything in there. And there were some black people that were working in there, some black women to be more specific. And they shared with us that one day the manager ran some little black kids out of the store calling them pickaninnies. You little pickaninnies, get out of here. And don't come back in here with no shoes and stuff. You probably ain't got no shoes. So he talked real bad to him. So this one lady was the cashier, and she felt so bad about it. And she spoke to him about it, and he told her, you mind your business or you won't have a job. And she came and shared that with Mr. Marshall and us, and we just decided that Shoppers Fair wasn't fair. So we're going to teach them a lesson. I remember that's the first time I went to jail protesting. The reason I went to jail is I thought I was smart enough to quote those city ordinances and the federal laws pertaining to picketing to the police officer. And I did a pretty good job, but he didn't think so. So I went to jail for he said that I was interrupting his police investigation, and I told him that it wasn't a criminal investigation that he's out here for. It's a civil matter, and if you were sworn to protect the Constitution, we're conducting a constitutional right out here. As long as we stay 5 feet apart, as long as we keep the picket line moving, as long as we're not vandalizing anybody or threatening anybody, we can be here. He said, oh yeah? Well, let me show you. You can't be here. I was scared as heck, y'all. The white folk took me to jail. I was scared. But when I got in there, I started feeling good. I got to thinking about somebody that wrote a letter from jail. I got to thinking about somebody that said that we had to do what we was doing, that we had to be men, that we had to stand up for ourselves. And I felt good. My mama wanted to tear my butt up. I was just 17 years old. Back then, your parents would still whoop your butt if you were 17, believe me. If you was in their house eating their cornbread and beans and stuff, they was going to get you. And wasn't no CPS to save you. Okay, so we did that. Man, let's see who else we mess with. Slits Beer. Everybody likes a beer, right? So Slits Beer, they have these people that drive the trucks, and a lot of people don't know this. Milk companies and companies that do that, the people that deliver those products like milk and stuff to a grocery store, they do not work for the manufacturer. They work on their own, and those people make a lot of money. So we wanted some of those jobs. We had some people that had money to buy them a truck and become a Borden's milk distributor. And Borden said, black people ain't gonna be distributing no milk for Borden's, not here, not now. So that was probably the best boycott we did because we did extensive research. See, we very covertly did some what you call secondary boycotting. And I'll share what that means to you right quick. Let's say you're the owner of Rice Food Market and you're selling Borden's milk. And we're boycotting Borden's milk. But we're not boycotting Rice Food Market. Okay? So what we would do is we would go in Rice Food Market and find something to complain about. Anything to complain about. All we want them to do is be contradictory to our request. Well, now we have a reason to boycott you. The underlying reason was Borden's, but you gave us the reason to do it because it was actually against the law to conduct a secondary boycott. I mean, boycotting somebody else because of what somebody else did. But we researched that company. And it was so cool. People thought that Breadbasket would just fly off the handle and go picket people and go do this. No. They had all of their facts together. They knew how many black people worked at your company, what jobs they performed. They knew what your daily sales were. They knew how many places you distributed your product to in the black community, and we would name them. We were about educating people. We didn't just tell them don't buy. We would educate them and tell them why they shouldn't buy it. So we went into all that, and we found out that Borden's Milk owns Bama Peanut Butter and Jelly. They own Campfire Marshmallows. They own Elmer's Glue. They own Borden's Ice Cream, Borden's Milk. And then there was something else that they owned that had something to do with medical supplies. But anyway, what we did, we boycotted Borden's, right? So we boycott it all. We don't care what name is on it. If you're owned by Borden's Milk, you can't have it. We won that. People talk about Houston and say, well, the black people in Houston, they must have been scared of something because they wasn't out there riding and they wasn't out there burning. No. We were smart. We were going like, well, we don't own nothing. We live in your house that we renting from you. Why should I burn down my rent house? I got to go rent another one from somebody else that look just like you. So let's get you where it hurts. Let's do it economically. Let's withdraw some money from you. First, we have to let you know that we're dissatisfied. Then we have to let you know what the cure is for that. How can you remedy that? And then we would tell you, now if you can't remedy that the way we want it remedied, then we won't do business with you. So that's how we would get them. We did Metro. Metro used to be owned by the city of Houston for a minute. Then it was owned by a company called Hutran. And then they tried to push it over to Metro. And they were really pushing this Metro thing. And we knew what was going to happen with Metro. We knew that Metro would wound up serving a greater population that's not actually the users of the bus. Like, have you ever wondered who rides the train in Houston? It's the people that don't live in Houston. You see, they're coming from downtown. They go into the park and ride out here off of Fannin, and they leave. Have you noticed that the trains in Houston do not service black communities? They run through the black community. Example, the train that goes from downtown a U of H downtown to Palm Center. It stops, makes several stops downtown, but once it gets to the University of Houston, on the other side of the University of Houston is the black people. The train go boogity, 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 all the way through their neighborhood to the dead end. 2.5 miles of train tracks that people can get ran over on. It impedes the traffic, but it doesn't service the community that it's running through. It's just running through the community. And so we knew that stuff like that was going to happen with Metro. We knew that they would have parking rides. We knew that they would have the more frequent routes would be the routes where people of non-color would ride in the bus. So we challenged them. We got on the Metro buses. They went crazy because they couldn't control us. We'd have people all over the city, and they just step them on the bus and start telling you not to ride the Metro, vote against Metro. That's what we did. You know, now is a good time for something like Breadbasket. Now is a good time for us to know that protest is not just holding up a sign. It can be an economic protest. You can control that. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Pluria Marshall right now. Pluria W. Marshall Sr. He was a cool guy. He was a great guy. He was a brave guy. He wasn't afraid of anybody or anything. And he went on to be president and founding director, executive director of the National Black Media Coalition. And a lot of people don't know this, but Operation Breadbasket and its people, they actually were the same people running the National Black Media Coalition. And the National Black Media Coalition had many milestones with having black people in front of the camera, black people behind the camera as news directors and producers, and we did that. One place we challenged in Houston where they wound up having several black personalities on air was KPRC Channel 2. We dealt with Channel 13, just about all of them. What happens is, and a lot of people don't know this, in order to have a federal communication license, there are certain things that you have to do in compliance to hold that license. And one of them is like public service announcements and being involved in the community and all that, because see, we the people own the airwaves. So these stations have to do this in order to utilize the airwaves. We don't know it and we don't hold them to it, you know, educational programming and all that, children's programming and all that. But once a year you see on TV around December, the station will run an ad late at night saying, hey, we have children's programming and all this. If you got any complaints or compliments, write in. So what this is leading up to is KTSU FM was a 10-watt radio station until Mr. Marshall made all of the people that owned all of the big radio and television stations in Houston put money in a pool. And they took that money and they made KTSU a real station. They built a new tower, they built a new radio station, people started listening, and it was great. Some people in Houston that I remember that Mr. Marshall helped that was in the media is Sansaria Messiah, Hurt Porter, Ethel Porter, just quite a few people in Houston. Breadbasket was a good thing. It was a big part of my life. I lived it. I loved it. As a matter of fact, I moved away to Amarillo, Texas, and the Breadbasket was so in me until me, just a little single person in this town where everybody was colored and everything was cool, and the white man was running everything, and they had nothing. They had no. Some of them had pride. I went there and I said, "Hey, y'all ain't got to take this stuff. Man, y'all great black people. You got to know who you are." So they gave me an opportunity to go around during Black History Month at the high schools. And when I went to the high schools, I told those black kids who they were. I told them, You are. And I explained to them who they were. I explained to them where we came from. I explained to them that we are God's people. And I helped to instill pride in them. As a matter of fact, the folks, the president of the NAACP there got on the local news and said, hey, this guy is an outside agitator. We don't know why he's up here. The black folks in Amarillo, we just find we don't need him. And that prompted a guy named Jim Pratt. I won't forget him. I thought he was a redneck. Jim Pratt was the anchor at Channel 7 News in Amarillo. And he caught wind of what was going on. And he tracked me down and said, hey, come sit down and interview with me. I want to find out, are you an outside agitator? What are you doing? Why are you telling these kids this? Why are you teaching this? Why are you doing that? And man, I got a 30-minute show. I embarrassed the guy that was the NAACP president. I even got an opportunity. I told him, thank you for accusing me of being someone that would do harm to my people, so that I got this 30 minutes free airtime to tell some more of my people to stand up. How about that? So that's what I did. So I'm known in Amarillo, Texas as that outside agitator, Ray Stevenson. My name is Oliver Ray Hughes Stevenson, and they know me up there as Ray Stevenson. Back then, I was so into the civil rights movement, I didn't want nothing on me, a part of me that sounded Caucasian. Oliver is just a little bit too Caucasian for me back then. So I chose my middle name, Ray, or for us Africans, Ra, son, God. You know what I'm saying? So I decided to do that. So they know me as Ray Stevenson, a little agitator from Houston, Texas, that went up to Amarillo and did all that. Oh, I'd like to acknowledge Reverend William A. Bill Lawson, who was the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, one of my mentors. I love him to death. He was always doing things quietly in protest. So I love him, Reverend Bill Lawson. So if y'all want to look up more about Operation Breadbasket, more about what we did and what we tried to do and our accomplishments, shortcomings, you can go to the library and read a book called Black Dixie, and you'll see what we were up to. Lots of articles in the Forward Times newspaper, the Informer newspaper, the Houston Chronicle. I started at Breadbasket in '72 as a youth director, and I wound up in 1980 becoming the executive director of Operation Breadbasket. I was the executive director from 1980 to 1983. If I could go back and change anything that I did with Breadbasket, for Breadbasket, to Breadbasket, I wouldn't change none of it. I want to tell you that you are the best you know, and you deserve everything that you're entitled to when you're spending your money. Don't accept second best. Speak up. Learn to say, can I see the manager? I'm one of them can I see the managers people. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody say something at the cash register, the first thing I think as a manager, and I've been a manager for 30 years, is this person is, they're quoting the policy. They're not the person that can change that policy. Thank you very much for that quote. Can I see the person that can change the policy? Can I see the manager? And I'll do that. Another thing is, I want to tell y'all that standing in line at a business, if you're standing in line like over 30 days, that means the business don't care nothing about you. They should facilitate their patrons. I want to acknowledge the non-black people that supported Operation Breadbasket in Houston, and you'd be surprised. See, I can say it now, it won't hurt their business. But there was a gentleman on Dowling Street, and by the way, Operation Breadbasket was at 2413 Dowling. The building is still there, 2413 Dowling. One of the people that supported us was the owner of Wolf's department store. That was a good man. And I'm not saying that because he donated to Breadbasket. I'm saying that this gentleman, Bernard Wolf, was a giant, a quiet giant but he supported us financially in all kind of ways. Another company that supported us, and you'll be surprised, Fingers Furniture. A gentleman name was Sam Finger, and he was one of those Jewish people that say, "Shh, I'm going to help you," and he did, and I appreciate him. Another one was Gulf State Advertising, and all of these white companies supported Operation Breadbasket. They didn't do it publicly, but they did it. There's nothing you can do that everybody. There's no success in one class of people doing something. It takes a little bit of everybody to get it done. Like even now with all of the protests, where would we be if it wasn't people of non-color and all of us black people saying that ain't right? You'll see people in the news getting killed, whipped, misused. We can't think that because we protested so mightily for 2 or 3 months that it's going to last a year or 2 years or whatever. You need to talk with your congressman, talk with your council members and your county commissioners, and let them know that black lives still matter and they'll always matter. Yes, all lives matter, but I'm black. I should take care of my own life first, don't you think? So black lives do matter. And this black man says all lives matter, but I'm saying don't y'all sit down. Don't y'all take a breath. It's time for somebody to say something else in a big way again, because they done got thrown off. We done let people hijack the American flag where we don't even want to acknowledge the flag no more because it's identified with something that's un-American. Have you noticed that? They hijacked the flag. So don't let people hijack what you're not what you're about, but don't let them hijack our American dream, because our American dream includes us. Even though we may not be included in the history that they write, our history is there. We've done it. We built this nation. Stand up for it. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother, and I said, "Brother, help me, please." But he wounds up knocking me. I got on my knees, and oh, there been times that I thought I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come.